On there.
In person or tuning in online streaming.
Can you give me that plug? Yeah, cheers. Plugged it in and give it to myself.
Just bring it a bit closer.
Thank you. We'll try again. So just welcoming everyone and acknowledging the Wadawurrung Aboriginal community that's either here in person or listening in this evening. So first of all, apologies. We don't have any apologies this evening, so full complement of councillors. Now, declarations of interest. I'm aware there are a number of declarations of interest, and if I can have the councillors, if they could please put your hand up if you have one, and then just explain brief your conflict, and then we'll make a note of that.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I have two conflicts of interest. Firstly, item 2.5 being Creamery Road Precinct. We've received significant correspondence over the last several days. Yesterday, we received correspondence from someone that identified themselves as a significant investor in the Creamery Road Precinct. That individual is also a customer of the company of which I am a director, and I have declared a conflict of interest previously for that same customer. So I'll be declaring a conflict for that, and will excuse myself during the debate and voting on that matter. I also have a conflict of interest on 2.11 being Line Burners boat ramp redevelopment. At least two of the respondents to that tender are customers of the company of which I am a director, so I'll be excusing myself for the debate on that as well.
Thank you. Councillor Kados.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a conflict of interest with regard to item 2.3 on the agenda, the draft West Vine Street precinct structure plan, as my employer is quite a significant landholder in that precinct.
Thank you, Councillor Kados. Any other councillor? No. Confirmation of minutes of the meeting that was held on the 28th of July. Can I have a councillor move that? Councillor Sinclair moves. Councillor second is Eddie Contel. So all those in favour? So that's carried unanimously. Next item on the agenda is public question time and submission time, if there is any submission. All people who attend tonight have got the opportunity to ask a maximum of 2 questions of up to 3 minutes per question or submission. And I've got a list of submitters here, and I'll just go through them in the order that they're presented. The first one is Michelle Richardson. Michelle Richardson, no. Bernice Davies. Bernice. Own issue.
Closer? Yeah, so if you move that a bit closer.
A little closer. Yeah. On red.
Thank you.
It's working.
Oh, it's on now?
Yep.
Thought this was a ploy to shut me up. Anyway,
No.
I have 2 questions. Now you can hear me. So, yes, now Council has previously advised that approximately 40% of this site would be retained for public open space, with the location and details of this area to be determined. So my questions are whether approximately 40% of the open space allocation has now been determined, and 2, whether the area has been formally identified or allocated on a concept plan, including its proposed location and use. And if this has not been determined, could Council advise when the community can expect further information about the community or the proposed green space?
Yes, I'll refer that to the Acting Executive Director for Growth and Place, Jackie Randalls.
Mayor, and thank you for your question, Bernice. At this stage, the approximately 40% public open space component associated with the site has not been formally determined or allocated on a concept plan. And we'll provide this to you in writing as well tomorrow. The future configuration and location of any public open space is linked to the broader planning and development of the site, including the proposed social housing outcomes. Further planning and assessment work, including seeking a social housing delivery partner, is required before these matters can be confirmed. The community will be informed of opportunities for engagement as the project progresses and additional information becomes available. Further engagement is likely in early 2027, and we'll provide this answer in writing to you via email.
Bernice, thank you, Jackie.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, can I just comment as well, if I may? Just as Ward Councillor and Chair of the Social Affordable Housing Portfolio. Bernice, thank you for your advocacy and returning to us these questions. I know that you've posed this question previously. I just want to assure you that we haven't forgotten. We cover this regularly in our portfolio briefings, particularly around what the space is going to look like and the discussion around the open space, knowing it's a priority for the community, knowing things that came up in the community engagement as well to ensure access. One of the things you spoke about was access from Dean Street to High Street. So we're considering all these things as part of the process. So I know you haven't heard from us in a really long time. We haven't forgotten. We do want to come out with some additional communication to the community. So apologies that you've had to come back and we haven't come out with that yet. But we are talking about this regularly in our portfolio meetings, and the community is very much front of mind. Cool.
Thank you, Councillor Sinclair. Next submitter, Noel Thompson. Right. What can we do about that? All right, we'll try that if we can all just be conscious of that and speak up. Can you hear it when I speak up like that? We'll just have to do that. All right, so Noel, if you could speak up in a big voice.
Re the Winnington War Memorial Kindergarten, 17 Townsend Road, Winnington. The 15th of the 8th, 1951. That's 75 years and 10 days to the date. It was registered as a war memorial from the Titles Office. Why, when I approached Mr David Greaves after receiving a letter from him, reorganising a meeting with him to discuss the heritage and sensitivity of this site, his answer to me was, it's too late. For any discussions with him, it is now going to council. His letter states, however, before any action is taken, our priority is to ensure the important legacy of the War Memorial remains respected. To begin this, I would appreciate the opportunity to meet with you to discuss how we can move forward with sensitivity to the heritage of the site. I would also appreciate any contact information you might have for other local families and individuals who may wish to be involved in these conversations. I look forward to working together with you to find a solution that reflects both the history and the future of this site. So you can understand why I'm sitting here now, just to, along with other family members and the community, to speak about this opportunity which has been taken away from us in just one phone conversation with Mr Greaves, wanting to achieve a suitable time for those discussions to take place. In the 11th of the 11th, 2014, it was moved by Council that this site would be removed from potential sale list and seek alternative use for community benefit, including a living memorial, which it still is. That motion was carried. Since then, nothing has been done. The building has been left empty and run down, with the mowing the only form of maintenance done. It can be made a community hub and living memorial again and shown the respect it so deserves, to restore it to former glory to the respect of the men and women of the Defence Forces. The site was built by volunteers with a lot of hard work and love and determination. This land is to be taken off for the sale list again and give us the opportunity for those discussions to take place. Let's organise a time with a meeting forthwith. It means too much to just let it go. Thank you for giving me this time to speak.
Noel, I'll defer to the Chief Executive Officer, Ali Wasty, to respond.
Thank you, Noel, for your question and for your ongoing interest in the former Whittington War Memorial Kindergarten site at 17 Townsend Road, Whittington. The City acknowledges the significance of the site to local residents, families and the broader community, particularly the memorial plaques and the history they commemorate. The strong connection many people continue to have with the site and its memorial significance is recognised and appreciated. The City is currently considering the future of the property, and in doing so, there are two distinct matters that need to be considered. The first is the future of the land and the buildings. The second is how the memorial significance of the site can continue to be appropriately recognised and respected into the future. The recent correspondence was intended to commence a conversation about the memorial aspect of the site. As part of that process, views were being sought from individuals such as yourself known to have a long-standing connection to or interest in the memorial history of the property, as well as any other individuals or families who may wish to be involved in future discussions. Absolutely no final decision has been made regarding the preferred future outcome for the property. Any future recommendation will need to consider the condition, safety and long-term viability of the existing buildings, the most appropriate future outcome for the land, and how the memorial history of the site can be appropriately acknowledged and preserved. We absolutely remain committed to ensuring that the memorial significance of the place is carefully considered and respectfully recognised as part of any future decision-making process. And I thank you dearly for your interest in the site as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Noel. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. We certainly understand the significance of the site, and there'll be opportunity for more community input as to its future use, so rest assured on that. John Winkler.
My question, once again, is in relation to ongoing issues associated with the Kiama Drive Lara drainage situation. So 40 years ago, council approved houses built too low in a known flooding area, and council is still promising and then cancelling the required drainage upgrades, and we get that the funding is problematic. So while we're waiting, we're still reliant on our floodway that sits to the east. Council bought that land and implemented it for us in 2014. But along the way, council has abandoned the overlays that were needed to protect us, and that's causing issues. And unfortunately, council now continues to mandate that new developments around us are built higher and is approving non-permeable fences and other barriers that are incrementally increasing risk to our homes in this low-lying area, and thereby also increasing our reliance on this floodway to the east. But then things went west. Last year we had to fight our own council who went to VCAT wanting a raised concrete crossing built, so effectively a dam across the end of the street to the east that would have blocked us from the floodway. And now this year the developer there has erected a fence in the same place. Now that's in conflict with the endorsed plans that would effectively raise any floodwater above the floor levels of 5 homes in Kiama Drive. And now we're even struggling to get council officers to investigate that because someone mentioned water and they discovered there isn't an overlay. That's the overlay that council abandoned. Now none of these issues are our doing, and we feel like we're being thrown under the bus. We shouldn't have to be the ones running around on the back foot trying to deal with this stuff ourselves to stay afloat. The system's broken and we're asking council to help us here. So could council please acknowledge that the Kiama Drive circumstances are exceptional and put your thinking caps on and establish some kind of a suitable mechanism that will protect residents until such time as the drainage upgrade is complete for us. Thank you.
John, I'll refer to Executive Director, City Infrastructure, James Sturton.
Thank you, Mayor, and John, good to see you again. Council does acknowledge that the Kiama Drive area has been identified as a flood risk location within our municipality and recognises the concerns of residents who have advocated for many years for improvements to the area's drainage infrastructure. As previously advised, the Kiama Lipson Drainage Project has been considered through Council's budget processes. While funding was considered, the project was not ultimately included in recent budgets, with other projects addressing great pressures and risks across the municipality prioritised at that time. The project remains available for consideration, though, through future budget deliberations. As you've identified, there aren't any permit triggers for fences in this part of Lara because there are no overlays. A planning permit has been issued for 32 Kiama Drive for multi-dwellings. The endorsed plans show a fence on the park boundary as a mixture of timber paling fence and metal blades with 25% transparency that provides for passive surveillance of the adjoining park, not for floodwaters, as no planning controls for flooding are relevant. Given construction has commenced, the fence in place now could likely relate to the temporary hoarding fence or silt fences to protect the development during construction rather than the final fencing as per the endorsed plans. The City will continue our proactive elevated drainage maintenance, inspections and other mitigation regimes within the area where assets are within Council's responsibility and control, while continuing to assess and advocate for future flood mitigation opportunities across the municipality.
James, thank you. John? All right, next we've got a series of questions that relate to the northern and western Geelong growth areas. Given that we're debating those matters this evening, the way we're going to deal with it is whoever submitted the question is welcome to come up and ask their question, but we won't be in a position to be able to give a detailed reply end of your question because the issue can't be foreshadowed before we actually have the debate here in open council. So you're free to get your question onto the record and hopefully it'll be answered during the debate this evening. So I'll call Simon Nardi.
Mayor, councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am speaking in relation to Report 2.5 Amendment C450 GGEE, and specifically the proposed Basin 7 drainage asset affecting our property at 20 Avonlea Road, Bellpost Hill. I want to make one thing clear from the outset. We are not arguing that the Creamery Road precinct should proceed without appropriate stormwater infrastructure. Our concern is whether council has demonstrated that approximately 4,200 square metres of 20 Avonlea Road must be taken for Basin 7 before the final design of the basin has even been completed. I don't believe the documents before council demonstrate that. When this amendment was exhibited, approximately 6,000 square metres of our property was allocated to Basin 7. Our family challenged that design and obtained independent drainage advice. That challenge was justified. The drainage experts considered an alternative sediment basin rather than the much larger wetland retarding basin originally proposed. The Standing Advisory Committee ultimately concluded that there was great merit in redesigning Basin 7 as a sediment basin because doing so would reduce land take and cost, increase developable land, reduce the infrastructure levy and reduce the number of affected properties. Council accepted that position. The result was the land affected at 20 Avonlea Road fell from approximately 6,000 square metres to 4,200 square metres. Approximately 1,800 square metres of our property was returned to developable land simply because the original design was properly challenged. That history is important. It demonstrates that the earlier drainage footprint was not the minimum amount of land required. My concern is that council is now being asked to assume that the latest footprint is the minimum, yet the documents before council do not say that. The precinct structure plan describes the proposed Basin 7 area of approximately 1,603 hectares as TBC final area. Council's own report says the 1.6 hectares has been set aside to accommodate detailed design refinements at the planning permit stage, including nitrogen treatment. So the final engineering has not yet established the exact land requirement. That raises a straightforward question. Why should private land be permanently designated for public drainage infrastructure before council has established how much land the infrastructure actually requires? Basin 7 currently affects two properties. Our property, 20 Avonlea Road, is only approximately 2.035 hectares in total. The current proposal takes approximately 0.420 hectares, more than 20% of our entire property. That is a substantial impact. The technical process has already shown that Basin 7 can be redesigned while maintaining appropriate draining outcomes. I therefore respectively ask council not to lock the current Basin 7 footprint over 20 Avonlea Road into the amendment as though it is settled engineering outcome. I ask council to require officers to investigate whether Basin 7 can be redesigned or repositioned so that it does not require land from 20 Avonlea Road, accommodated elsewhere within the drainage network or adjoining land, or if some land from property 20 is ultimately demonstrated to be unavoidable, reduced to the absolute minimum area established through completed detailed engineering. If council ultimately concludes that the land from 20 Avonlea Road is genuinely unavoidable, then we ask council to provide the technical analysis demonstrating why. At present, I do not believe that test has been met. The documents themselves acknowledge that the Basin 7 footprint is still to be confirmed. The history of this process shows why that matters. The first design was challenged, the experts reconsidered it, the committee agreed, council changed it, and significant private land was returned to development without compromising the drainage objectives of the precinct. We're simply asking council to finish that process before permanently encumbering the remaining 4,200 square metres of our property. Accordingly, I ask council to amend recommendation so that Basin 7 is removed from 20 Avonlea Road pending completion of detailed draining design and consideration of alternatives that avoid property 20. Thank you.
Simon, as I said, because the matter relates directly to an item that's before council for consideration, we will not be responding here and now, as it may prejudice the decision-making process that's about to occur later this evening. All right. Thank you. Brendan O'Lone. Is there a Brendan O'Lone there? No? And Antonio Nardi. Simon. The two questions there, you can ask those.
I didn't know that these wouldn't be answered until today, so I'm still want it for the record. Yeah, so this is in regards to the Creamery Road PSP, specifically property 20 and Basin 7. Has council remodelled a Basin 7 configuration wholly on property 21 or another configuration which removes property 20? And if so, what was the technical reason for rejecting it? And then question 2, will council commit that if detailed design reduces Basin 7 below 1.6 hectares, the reduction will first be used to minimise the impact on affected private land, including 20 Avonlea Road?
Thank you, Simon, on behalf of Tony. Andrew Duggan, proxy Mary Hennessy.
Mayor, we did submit 2 questions,
yes,
and we were also advised that we could make a 3-minute submission, if that's okay, which addresses the questions. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Mary Hennessy, General Manager of Marketing at Villawood Properties. Villawood has 37 years' experience delivering master plan communities across Australia, including 20 years in Geelong. Our founder and Managing Director, Rory Costello, is a proud and active Geelong resident and ambassador overseas at the present, so not here this evening. Our question and submissions relates to Amendment C450, Creamery Road Precinct Structure Plan, and the officer recommendations before Council tonight. We urge Council to reject both officer recommendations and the amendment until the Minister has made a decision on calling the matter in and the significant additional DCB assessments completed. Officers are recommending to the elected officials that Council proceed, despite being aware that Villawood Properties, one of the most significant and experienced developers operating in Greater Geelong, has advised that the precinct will not proceed under the officer-supported position. We ask, why have officers not provided councillors with a point-by-point assessment of Villawood's submissions, including the commercial and feasibility consequences of the proposed DCP and open space outcomes? Further, we ask our elected officials this evening why council officers omitted from their recommendation any advice that the Minister for Planning is actively considering intervention in this matter. Do officers believe councillors can properly discharge their responsibilities when critical information regarding both project feasibility and a pending ministerial process has not been fully resolved? Villawood has urgently sought the Minister for Planning to resolve the issues at hand, ensuring that the Creamery Road Precinct Structure Plan strikes the right balance with a workable development contributions levy and consolidating active open space at an expanded Myers Reserve. This is so the precinct is actually deliverable and commercially viable. Council is aware of the importance of this role to Geelong and the surrounding areas in delivering the state's housing targets and the priority the state is putting on achieving these targets in this current housing shortage. If the proposed amendment before you is supported, Villawood will have no choice but to not proceed with the development, with the consequential impacts on Geelong's reputation to deliver future housing supply targets. Council's recommendation 2.1 authorises council officers to finalise the Creamery Road Development Contributions Plan, presumably in line with the substantial works supported by the committee in its recommendations 3 and 4. These DCP additional works are significant, and the increase in the DCP rate likely to be equally significant. Why do the council officers not advise council of this in their report is one of our key questions. In fact, paragraphs 36 and 37 of their report, officers quote that there is no evidence that the exhibited amount of $823,000 per hectare would negatively impact the development feasibility. We submit that the consideration of this amendment is premature when feasibility is a key factor on whether it proceeds or not. With respect, the advice is flawed and unhelpful to the Geelong region. Surely the matter before council can be delayed until such time as the Minister has advised her position on the advisory committee recommendations, and that the all additional suite of major works can be concluded and valued. As Villawood has shown at our flagship community, Armstrong in Mount Dunedin, we know how to create significant communities delivering quality housing outcomes in safe and desired residential communities. Villawood has been a key part of the Geelong community for the past 20 years. We have supported hundreds of local community groups and charities, and you would have seen these sentiments from our shareholders and investors who have communicated with the City of Greater Geelong over the past week. 48% of our investors in this new project at Creamery Road and Batesford North reside in Geelong with their families and friends. All are passionate residents wanting to see the growth and success of the city. We have worked immensely hard over the years to present a Creamery Road PSP plan and development contributions plan that is affordable and provides all necessary infrastructure to ensure we can deliver another quality development in Geelong in this housing and affordability crisis. Geelong is at an advantage to many other regions and Melbourne thanks to its attributes and historic affordability. However, if development is too costly, thanks to a high DCP and the location of the active open space, the three critical issues we face include, firstly, if Villawood cannot develop, no one else can proceed as they will rely on Villawood for key services. This puts at risk critical housing supply for Geelong. Secondly, the price of housing will increase substantially. Development will not proceed for a long time under these circumstances. And thirdly, the broader Geelong economy, supported by so many local Geelong consultants, contractors, small and large businesses, will be impacted. This is a project that will generate $4 billion for the Geelong economy over 20 years. In essence, we submit that council should not at this time support a flawed plan as suggested by its officers, and the resolutions should be rejected. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. On behalf of Andrew Duggan. Right, next we have again a series of questions relating to the topic of 5 Staunton Vale Road. Staunton Vale, what I propose is, again, to invite those who have submitted questions to ask their questions, and then in this instance I'll endeavour to provide an answer that covers off the various questions. So Roger Smith is the first person I have here.
Hello everybody, welcome. You can welcome me back. I'm back. It's good to see you, and thank you, Mayor, for accepting a series of questions. I wasn't expecting to be the first, but there you go. I come from Staunton Vale, and for those of you who don't know about this, and others will probably mention it further, I'll just give you a quick overview. There is a school expansion that is expected, which has been proposed for our area, which will raise the population of that school from around about 150 people up to around about 450 students, plus other things. Going to make a major impact on our region. And in fact, the population of the school will probably be roughly the size of the population of Anakie. The vote at the last election, there was about 344 people voted at Anakie at the last state election, and the school is actually going to be bigger than that. So you can imagine the impact it's going to have on the community, on a small community. But I just want to get into my two questions. My particular interest here is in the significant landscape overlay for the region, which is quite extensive, I might say. But how does Council intend to retain the integrity of a significant landscape overlay, which is called SL05, if the proposed expansion of the Bacchus Marsh Grammar at 155 Staunton Vale Road, Staunton Vale proceeds? The Geelong planning scheme defines the character of this specific region as follows. The eastern edges of the Brisbane Ranges, including the Rowsley Scarp and its foothills and the granitic and scoria Anakie Hills, are visually prominent landscapes affording features affording views of the plains to the east. These locations contain a mix of cleared land contrasted with substantial vegetation cover. The area has a high scenic quality and is and its visual exposure makes it susceptible to visual intrusion from inappropriate development. And I ask that you take that last section into mind. It will make a big impact on the region. There are 5 major parts of the SL05, and these are the things that need to be taken into account when a decision is made. 1 is to protect and enhance the visual and natural landscape value of the area. 2 is to maintain vegetation as an important element of the landscape. 3 is to protect the landscape from visual intrusion from inappropriate buildings and works and their siting, design and/or materials. 4, to maintain the natural skyline of ridge and escarpment areas and avoid obtrusive building silhouettes, and to encourage the siting, design and landscaping of buildings and works responsible to the landscape value of the area. My final point on this is these objectives are unambiguous. The proposal fails to comply with them. Now I'm going to go on to number 2 here, my second question, but I do want to add something that I hope that councillors are aware of, is that this proposal has been taken over by the state government. You're aware of that? Is everybody, all councillors, aware of that? It's a draconian matter, and it's having a huge impact on our little township and region of Staunton Vale and Anakie. And I ask you to remember, because this is related to my second question, that I believe the planning department of Geelong had a role to do with this and was very strongly opposed to a number of the items that went to the minister. And this is my second question. Council provided its response to the Bacchus Marsh Grammar's proposal in March this year. Why was the local community not made aware of the proposal until mid-July? Mid-July. So this all started in February of this year. We only found out about it by accident, and it was an accident, when someone noticed an anonymous post on a Facebook account. So we didn't know. No one knew. We had 2 weeks to respond. You've never seen a community react so fast. It was incredible. Anyway, due to the fast track of that legislation, we found ourselves in a very difficult position. And as I've mentioned earlier on, the proposal is, if it comes to fruition, will be larger than our own community. We also know, and I think others may mention this briefly, but I'll mention it briefly, is that originally back in 2015, this whole development was knocked back by VCAT. And VCAT told the proponents not to proceed with any staging proposals from that point onwards. They were told not to do it. So what have they done? They've bypassed you, they've bypassed us, and they've gone straight to the State Minister. I suppose the most important thing to us here is that our council, our mayor and our CEO is prepared to stand up for what's going on here, because it's draconian and it's bad. That's all I have to say, but thank you for listening to me, and I hope that you take this matter very, very seriously. Thanks, guys.
Question. Mark Trengrove.
Mayor and councillors, I moved to Staunton Vale from Geelong West 16 years ago and was involved in the initial objection that Roger has just referred to. By way of background, as a public meeting in 2015, Bacchus Marsh Grammar told the Staunton Vale community that they intended to create a 60-student-a-day rural and environmental studies campus as an adjunct to their main campus in Bacchus Marsh. Then in late 2015, early 2016, we heard via an article in the Geelong Advertiser that they had applied for a planning permit for a 1,300 student campus. Of course, we at Staunton Vale felt that we'd been deceived. It was strongly opposed by the Staunton Vale Action Group and denied by the City of Greater Geelong. A permit was ultimately issued for the 60-student-a-day campus, which was basically in keeping with what they had told the community they were intending to do. Bacchus Marsh Grammar chose not to challenge that decision at VCAT. We, as a group, decided that we would put in a VCAT application, which we did, and we were seeking some minor additional changes that we thought were important, and we won that at VCAT. The application failed both at Council and at VCAT because it was not in keeping with the planning scheme, nor with the Council or state strategic plans. It was the wrong site for what they were proposing. Bacchus Marsh Grammar Principal Andrew Neal declared at the time in the Geelong Advertiser that the city was closed for business, and if we had our time again, we'd buy our land outside of Geelong. Bacchus Marsh Grammar should have considered their options more carefully in the first place. Instead of buying relatively cheap land nowhere near the growth areas, they should have bought an appropriate block of land in the first place adjacent to the growth areas. Now, as Roger has said, Bacchus Marsh Grammar are applying again to establish a full-scale bus-in, bus-out campus. This time they are fast-tracking the application to the state, thus bypassing our ability to challenge any decision at VCAT. In the intervening decade, there has been no change to the planning scheme or to G21, and the Geelong Plan for Nature reinforces what the Geelong City of Geelong's Greater Biodiversity Plan, of which I was an author at the time, stated also. So this is still very much the wrong place for this school, and we as a community are still opposed to it. We ask that Council support the community by advising the Minister for Planning that the Council also does not support this application. Thank you.
mentioned, I'll wrap up the answer at the end in relation to your question and all others. Yep. Carol Bartholomew.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors. Ms. Carol Bartholomew, part of my role is that I'm Secretary of Koala Clancy Foundation. In your recently adopted Geelong Plan for Nature, which is excellent, for 26 to 36, for the next 10 years, Council has designated the koala as a key species for the north and uplands landscape around Staunton Vale. We have a still healthy population in that area, the best you've got in the whole city of Greater Geelong. The plan specifically identifies loss of high-value roadside vegetation, pest animals and vehicle strikes as urgent threats, while highlighting wildlife habitat protection as core opportunities. This proposed overdevelopment of this site and the huge increase of buses and traffic directly contradicts these objectives by escalating habitat fragmentation, deaths on the road, and increasing threats to an already declining local koala population. Under Goal 2 of the plan, Council commits to prioritising protection and leveraging partnerships with us at Koala Clancy Foundation, because we grow trees for koalas, and embedding biodiversity considerations across all planning and operational processes. Given that this overdevelopment severely degrades a critical habitat stronghold, will Council strongly object to the permit? We know that you have restrictions on what you can do, but we are asking for your support. If it is approved, what specific planning mechanisms or overlays will Council enforce on this site to uphold its commitment to protect the koalas as the key species in Staunton Vale area? Your plan is for 10 years, so please help.
Carol, I'll try to respond at the end of the questions. Michael Drugged.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors, for the opportunity to speak. I live in Staunton Vale, actually directly across from the school. And I'll just say at the outset that I'm not, although I was part of the initial objections because of the scale of the first proposal, I'm not objecting to the agricultural school. In fact, we see it as an asset that we want to protect on the site from this urban development. So I want to talk essentially to the master plan and agricultural land use. Bacchus Marsh Grammar, BMG's agricultural school, sits on 81 hectares. In 2015, BMG's agricultural and land management plan identified an available 75 hectares of this site for agricultural use, proposing 60 hectares for beef cattle, grazing, and 15 hectares for loose and hay production. Neither of these agricultural pursuits have been initiated in the 10 years of BMG's ownership. The current application acknowledges that existing agricultural activities are focused on agricultural learnings about 10 times per week and a small amount of horticulture. However, it states that 50 hectares is available for agriculture. Based on BMG's figures, that's a loss of 25 hectares of agricultural land since their ownership. Additionally, of the 50 hectares available, approximately 40 hectares is currently not used for agriculture, representing an actual loss of 65 hectares of agricultural land for the current footprint of the agricultural school. And I did provide an attached land map. Just to explain, I live on the hill opposite, they live on a hill. I get to see daily their activities. So that's how I've been able to ascertain what's happening. The current application seeks a change of use for the site, cancellation of the agricultural permit and a new non-agricultural permit for a permanent primary and secondary school. Further intensification of this site will continue to reduce the productive potential of the site and provide the footprint for BMG to reactivate their previously stated master plan for a 1,300 student campus. I object strongly to this. Aside from the initial objections now documented in the RFI and objections document, what actions are City of Greater Geelong taking or will take to ensure protection of agricultural land, transparency on the proposal, and to ensure a piecemeal approach is not approved in this application? Second question is on traffic. There is an irregularity between the provided Transport Impact Assessment, TIA, and the proposed student catchment zones. The current proposal targets potential student populations in the Greater Geelong growth areas. These are 40 to 70 kilometres from the proposed Staunton Vale school site. The application states that all students will travel by bus and specify only one travel route, that being Mattingley Campus, Granite Road, Staunton Vale Campus. Yet the planning document states students from the Woodley and Mattingley campus are currently transported to and from the site by a bus. It also states this arrangement is proposed to continue with the students proposed to travel to and from the site by a bus via the existing campuses and from the Greater Geelong, Surf Coast, Golden Plains and Moorabool regions. It also states, as a condition of the permit, the bus management plan should be required to be prepared and encompass the primary school component of the site. It is unclear as to the proposed transport modes, routes and transport impacts and how a green travel plan could be implemented for such a remote site. There is no recent traffic assessment to measure the impacts of all travel modes and routes, no assessment of the broader road networks, no upgrades planned at the entry to the school, which could lead to ramping of vehicles outside the gate. The current one-way access to the site has not been sufficiently assessed. Has City of Greater Geelong requested more specific information to be provided to clarify these arrangements? If not, can Council please do it now?
For that, Michael. And then we had one last question on this theme from Alan Bartholomew.
Hi everybody, thank you. I'm here to talk about bushfires and emergency response. This fast-tracked application proposes to shelter in place with approximately 800 people in buildings built to a low-risk bushfire level of 12.5 with no active fire protection measures. It fails completely to demonstrate a scientifically sound understanding of wildfire behaviour, safe evacuation routes, or adequate structural bushfire protection. It would normally trigger a rigorous assessment under the Greater Geelong Planning Scheme under clause 53.02 relating to bushfires and recent state planning amendments such as Amendment VC 248. Any planning application that results in large numbers of people congregating in a bushfire-prone area or bushfire management overlay faces strict scrutiny. And I think there's several important issues to consider here. The first one is that we're talking about large numbers of young students. Some of these are 5 years old, they're a long way from home, out in unfamiliar territory. Everybody looking at this admits that it's the wrong site for a school, for an urban school. Just recently, Even Andrew Neil from Bacchus Marsh Grammar admitted they should have bought land in Geelong rather than in Staunton Vale. Talk about an isolated site that lacks important infrastructure and services. The property is in a known bushfire area and it has been burnt. And we were there in 2006 when the fire went through the Anarchy Gorge. There's a long-term forecast. We're expecting high fuel loads after a warm and wet winter and spring. There's a more recent forecast of large El Nino, which we're all experiencing. And there's recent global experience with unprecedented wildfire and drought, and it's a worldwide thing. So we would just like to know what action is the City of Greater Geelong taking to ensure that this proposal is rejected and that the prioritisation of human life is forefront with this.
All right.
Thank you.
Good, thank you, Alan, for that. And thank you, everyone, for the questions. What's the name, Simon? In relation to this issue? Is there anything new that you've got to say that's different to what I've heard? Oh, well, quickly then.
Thank you, Mr Mayor Contel and fellow councillors. Question particularly for Councillor Chris Burson because he's a You Yang's ward councillor. As Michael explained previously, and Mark as well, Bacchus Marsh Grammar proposes to send and return at least 8 school buses daily from its Mattingley and Woodley campuses during school operational hours to its Staunton Vale campus for educational purposes. If its current planning application is successful in building a new primary school to cater for 450 students and associated staff. Question, has the City of Greater Geelong budgeted for the probable Staunton Vale Road and Granite Road upgrades and/or maintenance costs resulting from the greatly increased local vehicle traffic that will also include parents, teachers, visitors and maintenance staff? Additional core council responsibilities will likely be increased road surface repairs, increased cleaning of roadside drains, increased clearing of stormwater blockages, increased management of roadside flooding, increased upkeep of regulatory signage, line markings and guideposts. Special emphasis needs to cover the Staunton Vale Road and Granite Road junction, where the current 3 daily Bacchus Marsh Grammar School buses turn in and out from. This road intersection floods regularly if rain is heavy from the excess stormwater that exits the Bacchus Marsh Grammar School, Staunton Vale campus, at the school north-eastern corner. The Council Engineering Department is already well aware of the water and drainage issues at this road junction. Will these issues listed above be added to the current Lara Traffic Management Plan? And how much money will be needed for the possible initial road capital works, along with an annual maintenance budget for Staunton Vale and Granite Roads? They're both local council responsibilities, those 2 roads. And just as a footnote, I'm a current qualified Victorian licensed plumber and are quite capable of interpreting any drainage or stormwater information we may or may not receive from council on behalf of our group. Thank you.
I'll just grab your name just for the record.
Yes, it's Simon Wilkins.
Wilkins,
W-I-L-K-I-N-S, and my plumbing registration number is 102789, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Noted that. All right. So thank you everyone then for your questions and concerns regarding the planning application for the use and the development of a primary school at 155 Staunton Vale Road, Staunton Vale. As a number of you alluded, and you're well aware, whilst council was not a referral for the application that was considered by the Department of Transport and Planning, we did, however, provide an objection very much along the lines that you submitted this evening under Section 52 of the Planning and Environment Act. The City advised the Department of Transport and Planning in writing that it did not support the granting of a planning permit for the proposal. So to that extent, we are on your side. The City's concerns included that the proposed intensification of the use was inconsistent with the purposes of the farming zone, and that the scale of the proposal extended beyond an education use associated with agriculture. The increase from an existing allowance of 150 day trip students to an additional 1,300 potential full-time primary school students represents a substantial intensification of a non-agricultural use within the farming zone. One of the City's key concerns is that the intensification of the use is considered inconsistent with the planning policy framework for land uses in the farming zone. So, as was mentioned by a number of you, you know that the decision on this is not going to be made by council. The decision on this is going to be made by the state government through their development facilitation program. So we don't get any more objection rights through a formal legal process than you do. But what we're happy to do as a city is to take up the issue through the local member, and I'll personally do that with my regular meetings with her, Ella George. We will also take the matter up with the Minister for Planning and for the Minister of Education. But the ball is in your court, and power to the people, as you say. You need to advocate in a sense for yourself. We'll help you to the extent that we can, but we don't have a legal authority or avenue, let's say. But it's not my place to advise, but I will. There is a state election, and it's up to you how you use that opportunity. That's all I'll say on that. Concludes question time. We will now move to reports, and the first matter is the second Youth Council report of 2026. Can I have a mover of that? Councillor Aiken moves. Councillor Story just second. And before we move into a debate or discussion, I'll just invite the Junior Mayor, Viggy Ram, up to give their speech. So if Viggy Ram can please come up.
Hello? Yep.
So, Viggy, the floor is yours.
Thank you. To begin, on behalf of the Youth Council, I acknowledge the Wathaurong people as the traditional custodians of the land where we live, learn, work and gather. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and recognise their continuing cultural leadership. We honour their deep spiritual connection to country, where the soil beneath our feet, the water in our streams and the sun rising in the sky carry stories passed down through the generations. We walk alongside Wathaurong people and the wider First Nations community so it can thrive. We appreciate all First Nations people who are part of the Greater Geelong community and acknowledge any of whom who may be present today. Good evening, Mayor Councillor Dr. Stretch Contal, OAM, councillors, executive directors, and the Geelong community. The Youth Council is excited to present our second report for the year, and I, Viggy, I'm excited to share it with you tonight. I'd like to note that we've updated our Acknowledgement of Country following a presentation from the city's First Nations Engagement and Outcomes Project Officer earlier this year. Across several meetings, we took the time to refine it together so it better represents our shared values and understanding. I'm very proud to say tonight that the acknowledgement you heard earlier is the newly updated one, which was unanimously endorsed by the Youth Council. The second Youth Council report to Council begins with personal reflections from both Bailey and myself, where we look back at the first half of the year and the experiences we've shared as Junior Mayor and Junior Deputy Mayor. It has been incredibly rewarding to reflect on how far we've come together as a young group since January. I'd like to take a moment to extend this gratitude to all the Youth Council members, as every individual has brought unique perspectives that strengthen every discussion, decision, and development of our project. Since presenting our first report in March, we've had 5 monthly meetings here in the chamber. These meetings have provided valuable opportunities to hear from city staff, partner organisations, and guest speakers. These meetings have also enabled us to contribute our ideas and perspectives on a range of projects to help shape the future of the Greater Geelong community. Specifically, we have provided feedback on the Youth Social Connection project, and 2 of us have even had the opportunity to be directly involved as co-designers in this project. We have helped shape the city's youth brand and identity project, shared our perspectives on the social equity framework, and participated in a workshop with the Victorian Electoral Commission to strengthen our understanding of democracy and civic participation. We also welcome members of Cultura's Multicultural Youth Council, working together to provide joint feedback directly to the Department of Transport and Planning on the Geelong, Bellarine Peninsula and the Bannockburn Bus Network Review. Each of these conversations have challenged us to think more deeply about the issues affecting young people and have strengthened the advice we are continuously developing over the course of this year. Through the Counselling Connect mentoring program sessions, in short CCMP, we have explored how priority area of economic equality and opportunity alongside with protecting our native land, skies and waterways, while receiving feedback from councillors on our youth-led project, which I'm eager to formally introduce shortly. These CCMPs have broadened our perspectives, strengthened our project planning, and deepened our understanding of local government, civic leadership, and the role of elected representatives in shaping our community. The report also highlights the many events and opportunities Youth Council members have had the opportunity to participate in. We've attended a wide range of community events, including the Women in Community Life Awards, the Watharawong Youth Hub Serving Up Stories Immersive Cultural Dining Experience, Geelong United and Geelong Venom basketball matches, council budgeting strategy workshops, advocacy sessions with Catholic Care Victoria and the Youth Affairs Council of Victoria at local public schools, as well as several media opportunities too. These experiences have not only allowed us to build new skills, but enabled us to strengthen existing ones as well, increasing our confidence and public speaking abilities. More importantly, it has allowed us to continue advocating for the needs of young people in our community. And that leads us to perhaps the most exciting section of this report, the introduction of the youth-led project for 2026, the Youth Festa Fair, which shall be held on Tuesday the 29th of September at the Geelong West Town Hall from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. The Youth Fest Affair was developed in response to one of the key issues we identified during our induction: youth loneliness and social isolation. Our aim is to create a welcoming, inclusive and low-pressure environment where young people can not only connect with one another, but also celebrate and show their talent, creativity and youth-led business. Over the past several months, Youth Council has taken an active role in developing and planning this event, working closely with the youth development staff, partner organisations and local young people to help bring this project to life. We have established planning subcommittees, secured a Youth Fest grant from the Victorian State Government and developed partnerships with Cultura's Multicultural Youth Council and Headspace's Youth Futures crew. As we move into the final months of our term, our focus will be on delivering the Youth Fest Affair in September, continuing our CCMP sessions, and developing our final advice to Council based on everything which we've learnt throughout this year, which we shall present to you later in December. On behalf of the 2026 Youth Council, I'd like to thank the councillors, city staff, our partner organisations, and everyone who has supported us on this journey so far. Your encouragement, mentorship, and willingness to genuinely listen to young people has empowered us to contribute with confidence and purpose. We're excited for what lies ahead and look forward to continuing representing the perspectives of young people while making a meaningful contribution to the city of Greater Geelong. Before I do finish though, I think it's worth mentioning that a couple of Youth Council members suggested I perform this speech as a rap song. And I thought, maybe I did consider it for sure. However, for everyone's benefit, I'll save it for another meeting if my singing skills do improve. So I'll get working on that. Who knows, maybe a rap song in December. We'll see. Thank you.
Councillor Aitken, if you'd like to open the proceedings.
It's very unusual for Councillor Aitken to say it's a hard act to follow, but this particular program, it gives the council group some of the most pleasure, and the broader community should be really proud of the future leaders that are starting to emerge in the city of Greater Geelong, and the Youth Council is full of leaders. That beautiful smile that you saw on Viggy tonight, there's actually 11 other Youth Council members with just as broad and beautiful smiles and just as much enthusiasm about the future of Geelong and their participation in Geelong. And so on behalf of the council group, thank you, Viggy, and please pass our regards back to every single one of the Youth Council members of 2026. You are absolute champions, all of you, and you are great leaders and give us confidence that the future of Geelong is in great hands. Thank you. But every single year we keep getting a chance to say this, and that is the group from this year has topped the group from last year, and they've done it again. And the second report that we've received from the Youth Council has actually shown a completely new flavour with this year's cohort. And the broader community would really like to hear this, I think. This group said, we actually just didn't want to sit around and talk. We actually wanted to do some action. And it was so refreshing to actually hear that in a political environment. And of course, the manifestation of that is going to be the Youth Festa at Geelong West Town Hall on the 29th of September. where they are showcasing young people's talent in Geelong, and I encourage every young person to take up the opportunity to participate in that event. It will go from 11 till 3. It will be a showcase. It is our young people giving young people an opportunity to engage and participate. And one of the primary aims, as Viggy explained to us tonight, was they actually want to address the issue of social isolation. We probably don't think young people are isolated because of modern technology and the capacity to communicate, but the issue is they have brought forward to us evidence and data that young people are extremely isolated in a high-tech world. And that's actually why the Youth Festa is an opportunity for young people to display their gifts that they have, whether it is through music, whether it is through retail, whether it is through creative endeavours that they will showcase on that particular day. But it is so fantastic. I congratulate all the staff associated with the program. I congratulate the core of the council group that are supporting in the council and mentoring program as well too. It is really important that we encourage all councillors to participate in that program if you can. You will be just get so much joy and pleasure and confidence by participating in that as well too. And thank you once again, Viggy, and your whole cohort this year. I'm looking forward to that wrap in December. The challenge has now been set. I mean, we learnt that with Hamilton, that you can rap and the broader public can come and listen to a rap. Now it's time for the City of Greater Geelong to hear a leader rap. So I look forward to that, and thank you, Viggy.
Councillor Aiken, Councillor Story.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll be brief, but I'll say that one of the most enjoyable activities that I'm engaged in Lights are on, but nobody's at home.
Big voice, big voice.
Okay. It's one of the... It's one of the most enjoyable... It's back. It's working? Okay, good. Okay, well, you've already got that it's one of the most enjoyable activities that I am lucky enough to be involved in. The junior mayor said that, what did he say, that broaden my perspectives, broaden his perspectives. Well, my perspectives have been broadened as well. I've been lucky enough to have kids and see them grow up to become adults, and so I really enjoy talking with young people, and we have wonderful conversations. It's a very special space where you can sit down freely, comfortably, and discuss things, answer sometimes difficult questions. Sometimes we don't have the answers to those questions, but it's a wonderful experience, and I do encourage as many people as possible to participate in that, and also would like to thank the officers who really are the wind underneath the wings of the Youth Council. Very briefly, this Youth Council and what this Council has done over the past several years is continuing a more than 100-year tradition in the City of Geelong. Mayor Howard Hitchcock, who was a mayor for 5 years between 1917 and 1922, was a very strong advocate for youth education, particularly civic education. He was instrumental in starting the Gordon Institute and also Geelong High School, but he had a very particular interest in developing civics understanding in young people. So Geelong's doing it again and keeping on doing it, and will continue to do it. So support the adoption of the report, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Story. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Councillor Sinclair.
Just very quickly, I can't really add too much more, particularly to Viggy, your report, and I know that that's not your report on your own, to the other junior councillors as well. So thank you for the thought and care that you put into preparing that piece of work, and just really want to commend the work that you're doing. It's not just incredibly strategic, so you're working in policy development, you're developing partnerships with other organisations. There's adults that have been in careers for a long time and they still don't know how to develop partnerships partnership. So this work you're doing is so impressive. And on top, as Councillor Aitken said, to go out and to implement a youth festival, event management is so difficult. It's so much work to pull together, you know, even a small event, and you're putting on a full-day festival that the entire community can enjoy and participate in. So just congratulations to the whole Youth Council. The work you do is so impressive, and I can't wait to see the RAF in December as well.
Thank you, Councillor Sinclair. Councillor Wilkinson.
Yeah, thank you so much, Junior Mayor Vicky and the rest of the council group. This report is so comprehensive. The amount of activities and investment that you are all demonstrating, on top of actually going to school. I'm not quite sure how you're fitting it all in. It's quite incredible, and I think the mentoring programs, it goes both ways. We learnt a lot about effective social media and communication with young people at our last session, that I understand that there's some sound social media going out to celebrate and educate people about this festival, and I have no doubt it's going to be as entertaining as all of you are. So thank you for this report, and thank you for all the work that you're doing.
Councillor Wilkinson. Any other councillor wishing to speak? If not, Councillor Aitken to close.
Mr Mayor, the only other thing publicly I'd like to say was at our last CMP session, we actually learnt that in Scandinavian countries, there's actually legislation that says that any decision that impacts on the future and a younger person now, you actually have to consult with young people. And it was really fascinating to actually learn that was, so it's not just as a token, it's actually understood legislative-wise that, in fact, decisions that we're making don't just impact on people over the age of 18. What it really is entrenching to us, and the Youth Council has been a beautiful experience to actually get us to understand every age group has a voice, and they need an opportunity to be able to share that voice. Geelong is in a very unique position that we have this wonderful youth council model, which many other councils just have a mayoral model where there's one person, but the Geelong model tries to take 12 leaders from the community and give them an opportunity to influence and engage and advise, and it really is such a wonderful opportunity, but it actually is influencing what's happening as well too, and that's that is what is so important, that we're now learning that people under the age of 18 have just as much right to be able to influence decisions as those people over 18, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Aitken. So with that, put it to the vote. Those in favour? So that's carried unanimously. The next item, place naming policy. Councillor Sullivan.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I'd like to please move a deferral procedural motion for the name placing policy motion.
I have a seconder for that motion. Deferral procedure motion. Councillor Sinclair. Councillor
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a couple of words. Just words are important. The name placing policy is incredibly important, and I would like to defer it to next month's council meeting so councillors can make sure that it is the best that it can be. Thank you.
Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Sinclair.
Yeah, I will very reluctantly support deferral on the proviso that it is returning to council next month. We've had a few cracks at this, and we need to make sure that we get this right. So I would really encourage all of my colleagues, if you have any unanswered questions or anything that you think still needs to be resolved, please read through in detail and let's resolve them very quickly, because I think we just want to get this one up and running. It's an excellent policy. Geelong is commended as being a leader in this space. We don't want to damage our reputation in this work. And yeah, let's just resolve this very quickly.
Thank you, Councillor Sinclair. Councillor Wilkinson.
Yes, and I just want to thank both officers in the community for their patience with regard to bringing this report to council. It is a very significant piece of work and a very important policy. So looking forward to September.
Anyone else in relation to the procedural motion to defer? Councillor Aitken.
Look, I just wish to also echo the statements that I'm uncomfortable with the position to deferring this. It actually has already been deferred once before when it came before this chamber. It also has gone out for public consultation, and I think it is going to be confusing tonight anyway, because there'll be other items we're not deferring, possibly, and the community. Let's hope it is debated at the next council meeting if there is some genuine reason for why it should be deferred. But I'll support it for the unity of the group. But I am uncomfortable that we do need at some stage to resolve this issue about naming place policies in the city of Greater Geelong.
Thank you, Councillor Aiken. Councillor Katos.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, with regard to the deferral, I don't support the referral. I think with this naming policy, no one's going to agree. We're not all going to agree on it. So I'd rather have the debate and get on with it tonight. But if my colleagues were to decide to defer it to the next council meeting, I'm certainly happy to abide by the will of the majority there, even as per the decision. But I think this is one of those policies that we're never all going to agree on.
If no one else, then Councillor Eddie.
I was going to speak on it. Didn't think we'd be all speaking on a deferral, but given that we are all speaking on it, I equally don't support the deferral, so we should vote against it then.
Relevant to close, and then we'll put it to the vote.
I don't need voter refusal on this one, Mr Mayor.
Right, so,
all good.
Putting the deferral motion to the vote. Those in favour? Carried by a majority. So move on. Draft West Fines Street Precinct Structure Plan. Councillor Katos, I think you've got a conflict. Have a mover for the draft West Fine Street Precinct Structure Plan, Councillor Sullivan. Seconder, Councillor Eddie Contell. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We have before us tonight the draft West Fine Street Precinct Structure Plan, and it is quite an important piece of work. Many view the Bay as our largest and greatest geological feature that we are built around as a city. But the Barwon River Corridor is equally as important in its natural beauty, its heritage and its building as well. Well, once upon a time there used to be clear paddocks between the wool stores on the bay frontage and the wool scouring mills and facilities on the river. That's very much not the case anymore. And when we've got fantastic parks and gardens from the Ballyang Sanctuary down to Landy Field, important businesses, historical Geelong businesses such as everything from the YMCA to the Rock to Fags Mitre 10 and Rex Gorell and so much in the middle there. This area is becoming increasingly desirable inner city place to live, work, do business and undertake leisure as well. And it's important that we plan properly and that we plan for the future demand that is going to be placed upon this area. We've got key land uses up here, up to 9 different zoning regulations with 6 different areas of height. And it's important that we get ahead and that this goes out to community and stakeholder consultation, which is the recommendation before us. Many people drive through here regularly, many people walk or visit many of the small businesses and the open spaces, as I've stated, or partake in many of the clubs and associations that take place on the banks of the river as well. So to get ahead of this, to have this proposed precinct structure plan in front of us right now, to let the community have their say, as well as the business owners and different associations in there, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of interest. A lot of good work has gone into this, and it's important that we protect our corridor that we connects as well as to the Bay as it does across the CBD as well. Thank you.
Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Eddie Contell.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Councillor Sullivan has articulated most of the main points of the report. I guess I'm comfortable and pleased to support the release to community consultation. And one thing that's important to note that this precinct represents one of Geelong's most significant urban renewal opportunities. It's obviously located close to here, to the CBD, also to South Geelong Station and our magnificent Barwon River. So it has the potential to deliver more homes, in turn more jobs, better connections, and of course improved public spaces. And it is a strategic piece of land for us. So what's important also to note that tonight's not about making a decision on the precinct plan. It's simply to put it out to the community for feedback and consultation. However, given the size and the scale of change that's proposed, that is important, that we get the proper consultation and the necessary feedback. As we continue to grow, we'll need to continue to make the most of opportunities for well-planned both urban renewal and established areas. And so this provides a framework for those discussions and that feedback to take place. And so I really encourage not only residents but also businesses and stakeholders in that area to have their say, to provide their feedback so that we're better informed as a councillor group as we proceed to make decisions on this. So more than comfortable to put it forward. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Contell. Any other councillor? Councillor Aiken.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. This actually is a significant vision change for Geelong. That actual part of Geelong, we actually used to turn our back to the river, and we actually decided it should be industrial land, we decided it should be commercial land, we decided that in fact it should be where people don't live. And what this structure plan is actually putting in place, it's actually turning Geelong's back around the other way, and we're actually saying we actually really do appreciate Barwon River, and in fact the Barwon River should be used as a vista for renewal that occurs in Geelong for 160 to 70 years. Essentially, we've turned our back on the river, and the most important thing that this structure plan is doing is we are turning ourselves back to the river and actually saying how wonderful waterways are. And that is a reflection of the population growth that is occurring in Geelong, and is a reflection of the amenity of what people are looking for. And the reality is Barwon River is a beautiful part of Geelong, and it is important that a structure plan that's put in place that respects that waterway, but importantly encourages a complete transformation of that area from being industrial commercial to being residential and to being a high profile site location where people want to live and people want to engage and take the advantage of the beauty of the Barwon River.
Councillor Aiken. Any other councillor wishing to speak on the matter? If not, Councillor Sullivan to close.
Nothing further, Mr Mayor.
Nothing further. So with that, put it to vote. All those in favour? That's carried by Councillor Katos unanimously. So we'll invite him back in. So we'll just take a break. Right, Councillor Katos back. The next item is the Northern and Western Geelong Growth Areas Strategic Assessment Finalisation. I have a mover, Councillor Katos, and a seconder, Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Katos.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the resolution before us this evening is to seek Council's endorsement of the final Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Plan for the Northern and Western Growth Areas, NWAGA as the acronym is. Obviously, any development, no matter where it is, will affect biodiversity, whether it's in the northern suburbs, eastern suburbs, southern suburbs or western suburbs. That will be affected. But what this does, it's a strategic assessment finds a landscape scale assessment and approval of development under the Federal EPBC Act and the opportunity to deliver improved environmental outcomes. So there were assessments done of the property of the NWAGA area in general, but no I suppose critters is the right word to use, were found there. Look, there was habitat that the Victorian grassland Aeolus dragon could possibly be in, but none were actually found in this area. And if we go on to the report, there's 2 strategic conservation areas and an avoidance area. So there's the Northern Conservation Area, which is to the top end on Stacey's Road, an Eastern Conservation Centre, which is a small area roughly in the middle of the proposed development, and also where the gully is, there's an avoidance area there. But in the northern area, one of the developers, obviously there was no Aeolus dragons have been found, but some have been found up in Bacchus Marsh area. So what one of the developers has proposed to do is basically they'll fund a levy that will be used to help protect the dragon in the habitat. Even though it's in another municipality, they'll be using that levy to help protect the Aeolus dragon in that municipality, in that other area. And they've successfully argued that with the Commonwealth Department. So that's a good outcome for that parcel of land. There's no Aeolus dragon was found, but they were still prepared to put money into the preservation of the animal in other areas, which is a good outcome. And there's $12.7 million we put into a trust for that purpose, and that also go towards funding actions to preserve the species for the next 30 years, which is a good outcome. But the area is on page 213 of the report, shows all the maps in that area. I sort of commend the motion here and more than happy for it to be sent off to the Commonwealth Government for approval.
Kados. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Kados has summed it all up quite nicely, and we're very grateful that these critters are going to be looked after in a certain ways. But this does break down to multiple documents and reports, being the strategic ones, the strategic assessment, biodiversity, conservation strategy, commitments and measures document, and funding programs. I've laid out there all quite nicely. People can be assured that these programs are going to be implemented and funded to achieve their outcomes, but happy to second for sake of debate. Thank you.
Councillor Sullivan, anyone else wishing to speak on the matter? If not, Councillor Kados to close.
No, nothing further, Mr Mayor.
So we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? So that's carried unanimously. The next item, entitled Amendment C 450GGE Cremery Road Precinct. Councillor Eddie, you need to just move here. Precinct Structure Plan. I'll just wait for Eddie before I take mover. Consideration of the panel report and the adoption of the plan. Have a mover. Councillor Kados moves. Councillor Sullivan second. Councillor Kados.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the motion before us this evening is for the consideration of the panel report and adoption of the plan, the Cremery Road Precinct Structure Plan, Amendment C450GGE. And basically it's to notify councillors of the changes since it was last exhibited, since the exhibition at its meeting on the 27th of August 2024. And we must note that the Minister is the planning authority here, not council. So it's this, as I said, the Minister has called it in and set up the SACs to begin with. So the SACs have been the first SAC I think was from memory in 2022, and the most recent one was just recently. And as part of that, part of the proposed development, there's some 22,000 dwellings. So this is something in its totality as part of, obviously Cremery Road is a bit smaller, 4,200 dwellings and just under 12,000 residents, but the whole precinct is roughly the size of Armstrong Creek. So, and Armstrong Creek, Charlemont and Mount Dunedin combined, because that's very similar, 22,000 dwellings, 60,000 people. So it's a similar precinct to that. And basically the Standing Advisory Committee that was appointed by the Minister, there were the council, developers, all manner of people gave evidence to that Standing Advisory Committee, Now, when there was originally proposed, the original DCP, Developer Contribution Plan, amount that was put before council was just under 1.6 million per developable hectare. Now, that has been reduced to 823,000, and it should be noted that 823,000, 35,000 of that was because the state is no longer contributing as it did towards its own intersection upgrades. So they used to contribute a lot more, now they're not, and expecting either council or developers to fund the upgrades to state infrastructure where previously they had done that. So that's the extra 35,000. So if I deduct that, it's about 788,000. Now, at the advisory committee, I know Villawood certainly proposed, the last one was 760, so they're not that far apart. It's $28,000. So, and the 35,000 obviously is for the state government. But look, the SAC found that the overall levy was appropriate, and it did say it's subject to some refinements. And you know, some of the refinements I can see going forward, Mr Nardi presented about the basin, for example. I think his argument's very logical. I'm not a planner, I don't set up precinct structure plans, but to put all the drainage on one land instead of a slither on his land, I think is a logical argument. Things like that is what we talk about refinements. And I cast my mind back to the original Armstrong Creek structure plans back when I was originally on council many years ago. And that first cut of the precinct structure plan to where it ended up was different. So there will be changes and refinements for the better is what we want to see. We don't want to see things going backwards, and that's what we want to see. We want to see things going better. And also, as far as developable land goes, there's an extra 16 hectares than what was originally proposed, so there hasn't been a reduction in developable land. So I think one thing that's important here is we need to send something as a council to the minister. If we were to not send anything, if we were to not vote this down or not send anything to the minister, then that sends a message that we've sort of absolved ourselves of responsibility, and the minister will be taking this over fully. Even though they are the responsible authority, we need to put a position before council, before the minister, and give them something that council has a position on. Otherwise, the minister will be free to do whatever she pleases because there will be no guidance from council.
Okay, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Happy to second for the purpose of debate. Thank you.
Any other councillor wishing to speak? Councillor Aiken.
I wish to move a formal motion of deferral, Mr Mayor.
Is there a second? Councillor Cadwell. Councillor Aiken.
I think there's 5 elements to good strategic planning. One of those elements is livability and amenity. A second one is sensitivity to the environment. Third one is affordability. The next one is level of community support. And the last element that I want to put forward is developer and investor support for a proposal as well too. Tonight I've sat here and listened to statements that have been made that I've never heard in the council chamber before. And that statement was that the project will not proceed. The main owner and developer has actually made that statement tonight, so they haven't, this is not a negotiating process. They've actually told us before the chamber tonight that it will not proceed. So I actually would like the item to be deferred, and we have discussions with the developer and investors to actually see how we can come to some type of compromise going forward. What we must understand as councillors is that this is actually the first precinct structure plan in the new northern and western growth area. The consequences are, if we do not have investor and developer confidence with the precinct structure plan for the first one, why do we assume we are going to have confidence going forward for other ones as well too? So my preference is that we do defer the item, that we do enter into discussions with those people that have said they will not proceeding with the proposal to see what we can put forward in terms of a council position, and also present that to the Minister as well too. I would like the council group to consider that as an opportunity, and I would encourage us, because look, this is about 120,000 future residents of the City of Greater Geelong, and this is the first time ever I have heard the major landowner and the developer saying it will not proceed. I have never experienced that in my local government experience, and as a consequence, it sounds like to me we do need to have some detailed discussions with those people who are the investors and the developers, because at the present time, I'll go back to my 5 elements of good planning. Is it livable and a successful area? Well, it appears it is. So yes, it meets that criteria. Is it sensitive to the environment? Well, in all evidence that's been presented to us, it is sensitive to the environment, because only 61% of the land is being proposed for residential development. Is it affordable? We've been told no, it's not. Does it have a level of community support? It appears there's some community support for the development area. And then the 5th component, does it have developer and investor support? And the clear resounding information that we've received of individual councillors over the last 48 hours is no, it does not. So it's only meeting 3 of those 5 criteria, and we as councillors cannot ignore what has actually been presented to us in relation to this particular significant decision that council has to make, and that's why I think a deferral is the best option for the council.
We did receive some advice in relation to a deferral. I'll ask the CEO if she could just speak to that for a moment.
Through the Mayor, thank you. Yes, an email was sent around this morning confirming that there is no opportunity to bring this back to council meeting, as this is a decision of the Minister, and the decision of the Minister is imminent. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, can I challenge that ruling that you're accepting from the CEO, because we can actually call a special meeting of council. The Mayor has 3 days at which to call a special meeting. If we defer the item and have discussion, we could have a meeting within a 1, 2 week or 3 week period to discuss this planning position, and it is actually our governance rules give us the opportunity to have a special meeting if that is actually what is required to be able to meet a time frame that's been presented to us.
Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I think Councillor Aiken has outlined the reasons for the deferral quite nicely, and also just reiterate what Councillor Aiken has just said, that we do actually have the opportunity to bring this back to council under our governance rules, and I think that that is probably a good course of action. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in relation to the procedural?
On the deferral?
On the deferral.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I understand Councillor Aiken wanted to deferral, but deferral based on what the developers have said tonight during question time, I appreciate where he's coming from, but if you look at the SAC report, and this is what I don't understand, under the SAC report, so it's on page 110 of the 2nd SAC report, the SAC noted, no party has advanced any evidence that suggests that the development in the land is unviable. So the SAC report said that no evidence was given. We had solicitors at 10 paces, and no evidence was given then, and now in the last 48 hours, council has been had this position put before us that it's unviable. Why wasn't this evidence presented at the SAC? That's the opportunity to do all this. If it was unviable, then surely that the planners, the experts would have said that at the Standing Advisory Committee, and this is what I don't understand. If that position had been put forward and they'd said that there, then fair enough. We're here tonight and I understand that, but up until, the weekend, this is the first we've heard of that it's unviable.
Any other councillor wishing to speak? Councillor Sullivan?
Yeah, I just wish a bit more clarification about the timing of the decision that the Minister has to make, and if it is possible for us to call a special council meeting within a week or 2, if it'd still afford the department time for the Minister to make a decision based on a recommendation here.
Through the Mayor, we spoke to the Planning Department this morning to get an indication of the timing, And as I use the words imminent, it is imminent. I can't guarantee whether it's going to be in 1 day or 3 days or a week, but it well may be within the time frame before the opportunity is for council to call a special council meeting. That's why the advice was given this morning via email. Thank you.
Any other councillor wishing to speak on the matter of deferral? I can put that to the vote, unless you have something else.
Yeah,
to
no,
add.
nothing further to add, Mr.
So put that to the vote. Those in favour of a deferral? Those against? Procedure motion is lost. We're now back to the...
Mr Mayor, I'd like to call for a division, please.
So those in favour of the deferral? Councillor Aitken, Councillor Cadwell, Councillor Sullivan. Those against? Councillor Burson, Councillor Kados, Councillor Nelson, Councillor Contell, Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor Sinclair, Councillor Story. So now back to the substantive. Anyone else wishing to speak? Councillor Aitken.
Yeah, look, because I've been put in the position, I'm not actually going to support the recommendation that's before us tonight. As I said, good strategic planning needs to have multiple components that are lined up and in place. It is pointless for the council to be in conflict with the development community associated with this proposal. It's also not appropriate that council also appears to be in conflict with some of the existing landowners. Questions that were asked tonight have not been answered during the debate. Nothing has been said about the Basin 7 and the engineering issues that were resolved. The amount of emails that we've received over the last 48 hours indicate that there is significant opposition to what council is attempting to try to do. It is not our planning is not our role to actually cause conflict and division in the community, and that's exactly what we've entered into for our first precinct structure plan associated with the Northern and Western Growth Zone. There is significant, I am genuinely concerned that we will be creating investor unease in that people will be saying you cannot deal with the City of Greater Geelong because they are not prepared to actually negotiate and discuss and understand the multiple elements associated with planning. And that is not a position that I am comfortable as a councillor to be in. I still do not feel properly informed with the information that's been presented to me. We have been told this is the correct information, and we've been told by others this is incorrect information, but we have not been given an opportunity to validate the incorrect information that's been presented to us. We have not been given an opportunity. We're being asked to make a decision. The Local Government Act talks about a council has a responsibility to be fully informed, and I do not feel fully informed when there is such significant opposition in the community about the planning proposals that we're putting forward for this precinct structure plan. So therefore I'm left with no position but to actually vote against it, and I am genuinely concerned for what the repercussions that are occurring after this decision tonight, that we are ignoring what the developer and investor community is actually asking us to do in relation to this precinct structure plan for the Northern and Western Growth Zone.
Okay, any other councillor wishing to speak? Councillor Nelson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I too will be voting against the officer recommendation tonight. I sought to defer the item and was advised by officers that it cannot be deferred. My concern with the deferral will be the Planning Minister will make that political decision and take office with such a short time frame. That's my concern. I've read all the concerns and emails received over the last few days about the financial viability and agree that it may potentially become financially unviable for the developer. We're all aware of there is a housing shortage and we need to make land more affordable. That should be a priority for council. I also thank Mr Nardi. He makes a valid point that we still don't know how much of his family's land will be used for the drainage basin. I sought clarification on that and still haven't received that. I cannot in all conscience vote for something with such information still not being available, as Councillor Aitken has said. I still believe the DCP is still too high, and as Councillor Kados said, believe the state government has made this project unaffordable by removing their contribution to their own roads. I just think this is a really bad look to start a DCP in the north. We're all aware of what Villawood did in the south in Armstrong Creek, and I'm really concerned, and I think that council need to work with the developer to find a solution for Geelong's future housing needs.
Councillor Nelson. Any other councillor wishing to speak? The Burson.
Yeah, so I love what Rory's done down in Armstrong Creek. It's amazing. I get that. I also have in the back of our mind, obviously, we need more housing going up, etc. I think there's a lot of outside influences that have to do with that, not just DCPs and those sorts of things. There's plenty of state levies, taxes, etc., that go on board that. It's not just us. I mean, they've already added 35,000 for certain things. I also note that Jackie's team has worked through a standing advisory committee, which isn't us, which is a place where you'll argue that back and forth. And then, to me, this feels a little bit like we're going, well, this is our last chance to try and use the council to get ahead. I've obviously had numerous emails coming in. I love the cut and paste that literally has the response email in the bottom of it. So for that to say that's completely independent, there are people who have written directly and done that. The other ones are cut and paste, so I'll take that with a grain of salt as well. I'm also aware that I represent a bunch of people who already live here, already have houses, already are paying for Armstrong Creek. They're already paying for other places that doesn't help their local community. These DCPs are great for the people that live there. They're getting amazing new buildings. They're getting all this sort of stuff. We're also looking at drainage and things like that. They're getting better drainage than the rest of the people in the area who we already represent. And a lot of this decision seems to be made on people that don't live here yet, whilst ignoring the people that are already here who will have to pay the gap between the developer and our local city. I also note that the employment will be amazing for the people who do live here that goes up there, so I understand that as well. They need to work somewhere, and if you can work in a construction area that's near here, that's great. So I also understand that, but that's the people who live here. That's employment. That's the thing that we'd be voting on there, which isn't what this plan is about. Just outside of that, I also have noted that in the paper we've been saying things like our planning team has got no idea what they're doing and they've had limited amount of ability, which is absolute rubbish because our planners have done an amazing job. They are qualified. They have years and years of experience. And to sit here and throw mud in the paper to try and influence people's thing is not something I'm interested in. I think that's probably it.
Any other councillor wishing to speak? Councillor Sinclair.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to reiterate some of the points that Councillor Kados made. So we have significantly reduced the DCP amount from $1.6 million to $823,000. There was a standing advisory committee process that has been undertaken, that has had many sittings, that has had many people involved at a cost to the city and to the state government, and that process should be respected. I echo Councillor Burson's comments and my support for the planning team and the hard work that they have done. The quality of information that we have from our team is excellent. Just want to echo that sentiment as well. Thank you.
Councillor Sinclair. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you. I also understand that this has been going on for a very long time and that there's been a lot of discussions, and obviously with the committee meetings with legal representation and independent panel members. So, it is a dangerous precedent, I think, when councillors start getting involved in planning issues directly. We've been sought very careful legal advice about what our role is as a councillor, and what we have is the information, the independent information in front of us. So concur with Councillor Burson's assessment of the planning team and council officers, and my full respect to the work that they have undertaken in this quite long-standing involvement.
Councillor Wilkinson. Any other councillor wishing to speak? I don't normally enter into debate, but on this matter I will, because it's such a significant matter and attracted so much attention over the last number of days. I've taken a particular interest in this matter, and I've sat in multiple days of Standing Advisory Committee hearings. I sat in the rooms upstairs in SAC 1 and SAC 2. And what I can tell you is that you could not have had a more comprehensive forum to have heard the pros, the cons. There were experts, consultants, advisors, lawyers that were charging $1,000 an hour. It was a lawyer's picnic. It was embarrassing, the amount of money that was being spent to put onto the table all the possible information that one could imagine in relation to what the developer contribution should be, what the developable area should be, that I don't know how we as councillors, if we were to defer to a date unknown, because the deferral motion didn't say when we were going to reconvene to consider it, who were we as councillors going to call to get any more information? We were going to rehash a SAC that went for a fortnight that probably cost, I don't know what it would have cost the combined room. I was trying to do the numbers. It must have been costing $250,000 a day. Must have been. Easy. Knowing what the Collins Street lawyers would have been charging, as Councillor Story can well appreciate, it would have been over $1,000 an hour. So I'm not sure how we could create some sort of kangaroo court of a process within the next week or two, given that the Minister has indicated a decision is imminent. How are we going to replicate what transpired over a month of SACs? And ultimately, we have to trust the process. Like the Staunton Vale matter that came before us earlier, this is not going to be a decision the council is making. All we're saying tonight is to refer the approval of council in relation to the SAC's recommendation to the Minister to consider. So as I said to the people from Staunton Vale, create your own luck. You know how to lobby, you know how to advocate. We tonight are not making a decision on approving or otherwise your development. The decision is going to be made in Spring Street. So wasting more time talking to us tonight is exactly that. I don't see how it's going to advance your cause, because the decision or the rubber stamp is being made in Spring Street. That's where I'd be driving and talking, and that's how the process works. Unfortunately, the council is not the final arbiter of what is happening with this matter. So that's all I have to say on this matter.
That's good, because you ran up.
That's right. So now, unless there's anyone else, I'll hand back to Councillor Katos.
No, nothing further, Mr Mayor.
So then we put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Not sure where we are with Councillor Story now, up and down. So let's call a division so that we're certain on this. Those in favour? Councillor Burson, Councillor Katos, Councillor Contell, Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor Sinclair. Those against? Councillor Aitken, Councillor Cadwell, Councillor Nelson, Councillor Sullivan, Councillor Story. With my original vote. So that's the casting vote, so the matter is passed.
You do it.
I'm backing you.
Okay, well you did on that one.
Right, we move to Amendment C, quadruple 4, double G, double E, South East Lara Residential Growth Area and C453GGEE Lara Business Park. Consideration of panel report and adoption of amendments. Councillor moving, Councillor Kados. Councillor seconding, Councillor Burson. So Councillor Kados.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So this motion before us this evening is the consideration of the panel report and adoption of amendments for the South East Lara Residential Growth Area and Lara Business Park, C444 and C453, or CGGE means Geelong, Greater Geelong. And so basically this parcel of land, most people would drive past it without even knowing they're driving past it going to Melbourne. Once you come over I think it's the Robert Sergi Bridge from the Ring Road, as you straighten up towards Hovell Creek, it's all the land on your left. So that's all that land there, which goes right up to Canterbury Road. And this is 115 hectares of land south of Lara's town centre. And basically C444 amends the existing farm zone to general residential and industrial 3, which is lighter industrial. So that's essentially the northern half of this sort of, it's almost a triangular, it's almost like a wedge sort of shape. And then amendment C453 rezones the farm zone to industrial 1 in the south and industrial 3 in the north. Again, the lighter industrial, heavier industrial away from the residential. It was exhibited publicly between October and November of last year. C444 received 25 submissions, 12 for, 13 were either against or wanting changes. C453, 17 submissions, 12 for, either 5 either against or seeking changes. It went to panel, which lasted 3 days in April of this year. Council was there, Lara Farms, the Department of Transport and Viva Energy. It must be noted there are some buffer zones in the south regarding that. So that's why the industrial is in the south and the residential is in the north. And it has that odd sort of curved shape through it, which is actually 1 kilometre buffer zone. Council received the report on the panel report on the 11th of June this year, and the report finds that the amendments are both well-founded and strategically justified. So we'll get a little bit more residential land. I think it also suggested an upgrade to the level crossing there in the vicinity of Canterbury Road. And there's also some opportunity there for some more sporting facilities for the Lara community in the northern section. So overall, it's as you can tell by the level of interest, not a real controversial proposal before us this evening. So it's been well supported by the developer, council, all the authorities that are in support of it. So I'd be more than happy to send this one off to the Minister and seek their approval.
Councillor Kados. Councillor Burson.
Yeah, I think Councillor Kados has pretty much summed it all up. However, the level crossing has been one of the things that appears in my inbox quite consistently. So I'm glad this will be upgraded instead of people having to draw pictures on the railway crossing to try and get potholes filled. So ideally that'll fix it. There's also bike paths that are yet to obviously link up across the city, but at least this will give us a few extra ones that might lead to Holvers Creek Road and be beneficial for the cyclists around here. There's also some large infrastructure that goes through the ground, which is another thing that we need to look after, the gas pipelines and some other things there, which is why we're probably not getting a bunch of other stuff built, because there's a lot of infrastructure things there. I also do note that I think the traffic is probably underestimated from them, but we can only go from what's been there. I can't see B-doubles getting around that turn to get onto the freeway, which might be a future state problem. But currently we can't fix that. So I support this with Councillor Kados.
Councillor Burson. Anyone else wishing to speak on the matter? If not, Councillor Kados to close.
No, nothing further, Mr Mayor.
So put that to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. The next item, Newcomb Street, Princess Street, the Glen, Drysdale, finalisation of the special rate and charge scheme. A mover, Councillor Sullivan, moving. A seconder, Councillor Cadwell. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Happy to move this as the local ward councillor. This one's been in track for a while. We declared our intention, we declared intention in January last year and declared it in June last year as well. 10 properties have all benefited from this one. There was no submissions to VCAT, which is fantastic, and the total project cost came in under 12% under cost for residents. So I'd like to see the state and federal governments match that sort of efficiency with dollars. So happy to move this one, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Cadwell.
I don't have anything to say, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? If not, Councillor Sullivan, anything in closing?
I'd just like to thank the City Infrastructure team and all the officers and good work they've done there. They do an incredible job with these SRCs and really do strive to get value for the ratepayers' dollar and come in under cost. So they do incredible work. Thank you.
So put it to the vote. All those in favour? So that's carried unanimously. The next item, declaration of a public road pathway, Mindell Street, Armstrong Creek. Councillor Sinclair to move and Councillor Nelson second. Councillor Sinclair.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This one seeks to endorse the declaration of a public highway of Mindell Street in Armstrong Creek. It is a technical motion, but it supports the opening and handover of the Tara Stadium, the new stadium that's being built near Armstrong Creek Town Centre. So it allows for planning permits to be issued and for us to occupy the building and start filling it with people playing sport and pickleball and basketball and a range of other wonderful social connections. So I'm very happy to table this item tonight.
Councillor Sinclair. Councillor Nelson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Sorry, I had a bit of a coughing fit just before that, sorry. Nothing much more to add other than we hope the developer is going to continue the Mindell Street connection right through to the next suburb so that people can get through there without having to go up and around and congesting Armstrong Creek even further. So once this gets finished, that missing section of Mindell Street will be a great outcome for the community.
Nelson, any other councillor wishing to speak? Councillor Katos.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, no, it's good to have the finalisation scheme, but this road would have already been built because that was supposed to be the site of the pool for the Commonwealth Games that was cancelled. So had the Commonwealth Games gone ahead as was promised, a pool would have been built in that location next to where the sporting club is now, and this road would already have been built.
Councillor Katos. Anyone else wish to speak? If not, Councillor Sinclair to close.
I believe council voted against progressing with the pool. So. That's correct. Tiny bit awkward. Anyway, yeah, just reiterating, absolutely want to see the other piece of development complete to bring the connection through to Horseshoe Bend Road. And I think that was one of the two pieces of feedback we got in the community consultation. But yeah, otherwise happy to table this motion.
Thank you. We'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. The next item, the Planning Committee Terms of Reference, mover Councillor Katos, seconder Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Katos.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, the Planning Committee Terms of Reference, just a minor amendment. Sometimes with these terms of reference, you find something that might need fixing because we've got a situation where if the ward, because the terms of reference were originally written for multi-council awards, and now we're back to single council awards. So there was some adjustment to them, but obviously something was missed. Inadvertently, it's nothing intentional. So the problem has arisen if the ward councillor has a conflict of interest and can't call in something, there's something with genuine community interest that fulfills the least 10 objectives and the requirements to call in a matter to the planning committee. This allows ability to be able to do that if another councillor steps in and calls the matter in. But it also, where the committee person, as a committee chairman, who's myself, might have a conflict of interest, it facilitates for that scenario. And if yourself as mayor have a conflict of interest in this, it facilitates for that scenario. So just a few things there, a bit of tweaking that was found, so just a bit of sensible update to the policy.
Councillor Katos. Councillor Sullivan.
Nothing further to add, Mr Mayor.
No, thank you. Any other councillor wishing to speak? If not, Councillor Katos to close?
Nothing further, Mr Mayor.
So we'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? So that's carried unanimously. MAV State Council meeting motions. Councillor Cadwell to move. And Councillor Sinclair to second. Councillor Cadwell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. This item is seeking council endorsement of 3 motions that will be tabled at the upcoming Municipal Association of Victoria State Council meeting on the 23rd of October 2026. The MAV is the peak body for Victorian councils, with an opportunity to enlist support from our local council peers for key advocacy projects from the state government. These 3 motions seek an increase in state government funding investment for pound services, community sporting infrastructure and better planning and infrastructure coordination for data centres in our region. And that improved planning and coordination of data centre development will help council protect the delivery of housing, employment and infrastructure and mitigate the use of land, water and electricity needed to support them. The increased investment in pound services and community sporting infrastructure will help us continue to provide these important services and facilities which support the continued wellbeing, participation and connection in our community, particularly as we experience significant growth in the city of Greater Geelong. Data centres are very topical, and we know that they are land and resource hungry, and they provide significant competition for housing, which has been a topic of conversation at tonight's council meeting. While they're very necessary for the modern world that we live in, their location and the use of resources needs to be carefully planned and assessed. And the motion around data centres asks the state government to develop a statewide planning framework to manage these issues, to undertake meaningful consultation with impacted local communities and to require these centres to efficiently use electricity and water. For example, not using clean drinking water, which could obviously be used for the local community and for agricultural purposes. The second motion asks for the state government to increase funding for the local sports and infrastructure fund by establishing a long-term indexed funding program which allows us, council, to meet the growing infrastructure needs by delivering and by allowing us to deliver and renew our community sports and recreation facilities, important facilities such as sporting pavilions, courts, playing fields, aquatic facilities and recreation reserves. The third motion seeks an increase in dedicated ongoing funding to allow us to deliver and expand our legislated animal pound services, which are currently located at Gores in Moolap, and ensure that these services are fit for purpose and compliant with our animal welfare obligations. Sadly, the City of Greater Geelong leads the state in cases of animal cruelty and neglect, and our current pound services are straining under this enormous pressure. I commend these 3 motions to the Council.
Cadwell, Councillor Sinclair.
Thank you, and that's a great summary. Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. I don't really have too much more to add other than that I am supporting of them. I think particularly the pound additional funding is really important as we grow and the number of animals that need support in our municipality grow as well. But also the work around data centres, which I know Councillor Cadwell has been doing a lot of work on. So happy to support these 3 motions going through to MAV.
Councillor Sinclair. Any other councillor wishing to object? Councillor Aitken, then Councillor Katos.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Look, I actually just wish to personalise it and say thank you very much to Councillor Cadwell for the work that she's actually doing as our MAV rep. The reality is the MAV is our most significant local government advocacy structure that we have, and Councillor Cadwell and the organisation didn't have to bring back these motions to us. In the past, there's been examples where representatives of the council don't actually engage to the same level that we're now experiencing, so you've actually set a very high benchmark for future councillors, Councillor Cadwell, in terms of representing Geelong at the MAV, but importantly keeping us informed as councillors about what is happening and giving us an opportunity to also influence what you're representing of us up there as well too. So thank you very much.
Councillor Aitken and Councillor Katos.
Yeah, just obviously support the pound services. sporting infrastructure, but the data centres I think is very topical. I know we had the one out in the north there was some land purchased, and what we really at the moment is farm zone. And I don't think anyone disputes the need that we need data centres, and with our modern society and technology we need these centres, but they need to be put in appropriate areas. And I think you've got a lot of these people speculating about where they're going to put them. We've got, for example, we've got zoned industrial land, commercial land. That's where they should be being put. And that's what the state government needs to come up with a clear policy to put them in appropriate areas. As I said, we need them. They do create a lot of employment during the construction phase, not so much ongoing employment, but they're still an important part of our society. But let's not eat up good land that's available for residential housing, and let's put it in the appropriate area where local communities will be happy to see them and not impinge upon their daily, their lives next to their houses.
No, very good. Thank you, Councillor Kados. Any other? Councillor Wilkinson?
I just want to further thank Councillor Cadwell and strongly agree with all three of the motions. That's really fantastic work. And I note that overnight, Melton City Council actually voted to put a moratorium on data centres with Melton, and I advocate within the state government, wondering whether that's something we might consider as a broader council. That's for another time, perhaps. But yeah, I really highly commend the work you're doing, and really pleased that these motions are going forward.
Councillor Wilkinson, any other councillor? If not, then Councillor Cadwell, back to you to close.
Well, thank you. Look, it's always nice to be thanked, so thank you very much for my councillor colleagues for those words of thanks. I take my responsibilities as the MAV delegate quite seriously, as you may have observed, but I can't take all the credit for this work, and I really want to highlight the work of the city officers, particularly our amazing governance and risk officer and manager, Alana Martin, and her team for all of their research and support in developing these motions. Great work. Thank you.
So put that to the vote. All those in favour? So that's carried unanimously. Councillor Eddie Contel, I think you need to step out. Next item is the Lime Burners Boat Ramp Redevelopment Stage 2. Can I have a mover? Councillor Nelson. Councillor Burson second. Councillor Nelson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report is to award the tender for Stage 2 of the redevelopment project. It consists of Eastern Breakwater Works, including the extension of the breakwater, new lighting, new asphalt, new car park, removing the existing pontoons, a replacement of the pontoons, and new boat ramps. As a kid that fished, that's where we used to fish. We used to ride down there in the mornings and fish down there. Didn't catch much other than grass whiting. That was about it. That was about all we caught there.
Maybe flattered.
But this will be great, a new addition for the area, Mr Mayor.
They're not that bad.
Councillor Nelson. Councillor Burson.
Yeah, nothing further to add.
Kados.
Councillor Sullivan.
Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, Geelong is a region, a greater region with a long maritime history, and we are a proud city by the bay and oceanside as well. And I think it is important to acknowledge that over the last 5 years, the state government has contributed to upgrading boating facilities at Ocean Grove, St Leonard's, Avalon, Clifton Springs, and now Stage 2 for Lime Burners as well. It goes a long way to serving the local community, and fishers can be very organised in their campaigning as well, and so it's always good to keep them on side. But as a keen fisher, keen angler myself, I appreciate these upgrades. There might be maybe one person here who knows a little bit more about fishing than I do, but it's fantastic to see this work. And it is important to acknowledge when we get good investments from state and federal governments, and this is something that I believe is worthwhile. Thank you.
Sullivan. Anyone? Yes, Councillor Curtis, you have to respond to that.
Thank you, Mr. Yes, obviously my family has a long history, not so much in recreational fishing, but in professional fishing, which alas is no more in Port Phillip Bay. But one thing, it's good to have these facilities and to have investment in these facilities. But one important thing I think that needs to be updated is the enforcement. Because when the commercial netting was banned in Port Phillip Bay, there was opportunities there, and it has created a black market and we see it in the papers all the time, it has created a black market in selling fresh fish, recreational fishermen catching fish and selling it illegally. Whilst it's great to have these facilities and have people fishing, they've got to be doing it right, and we think we need to get more enforcement officers out there, so the state government needs to, because they were recently cut not that long ago, so we need to get more officers out there enforcing and making sure people are doing the right thing. No one objects to you taking what you catch home to eat, but you should not be selling it.
Not. Anyone else wishing to speak? If not, Councillor Nelson to close.
I just think this it's a great project, and thank the state government for their investment. And this will service the needs of the Geelong community and the wider community as well. Probably need to look at paid parking for these spots across the region. I think that would be a good idea as a good income stream for council for the non-residents. Thanks.
Non-residents, okay.
So to the vote, all those in favour for parking for non-residents? Unanimously passed.
Well done, Steve.
Your revenue.
Longer than you thought.
He's back. What is next? Enterprise Asset Management Service Integrator. Councillor Burson moves it. Councillor Aiken to second. Councillor Burson.
Yeah, I don't know if you've noticed we've had technical difficulties tonight, which obviously goes towards what we're trying to do here. I'm doing an upgrade. We're trying to get stuff with AI and make it easier for you to. I mean, you'll notice if you try and download our app at the moment, it's issues. But that's why we need to go out to tender and update all the software and the other stuff that we've got that's going on at the moment. I know GUB also was looking at upgrading some things. So across the board, a lot of our computer items are getting old, and the CEO needs to fix these so that we can better do our jobs. Yeah, half the microphones don't work, etc. Maybe if we sold illegal fish, we'd do better. But I support this with the CEO going out to do a tender and then bring it back to who's win.
Person, Councillor Aiken.
It's actually really a complex area because it's actually very hard to get legacy and existing software systems to be able to talk to each other. And this is actually a high-risk project. And I'm confident that the team will manage it very well and as best they can. But it really depends on how finance, human resources, supply chain, and even GIS, how they all talk to each other. And what ultimately is trying to be achieved is it is about reducing money. It is better managing our asset and the life cycle of our assets that we have in the city of Greater Geelong, and ultimately trying to be more efficient so that we can actually understand the life cycle of our assets that we do have. So I do wish the team well. It is going to be really complex, and I think that's why investment's being made into this particular area. And I hope the community and also the staff get to see the benefit from it as well too, and it does make it easier for how we actually utilise our significant assets that we do have to deliver our services in the city of Greater Geelong.
Aiken. Any other councillor wishing to add to the debate? No. Councillor Burson to close.
No, just enabling our current people to do more without having to increase costs is the aim of it. So that's it.
To the vote, those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Then there's a record of informal meetings of councillors. A mover, Councillor Eddie Contell, Councillor Wilkinson. Anything to say there, Councillor Eddie?
Only that governance rules calls for us to be able to table any records of informal meetings by councillors. This is just asking for those records to be summarised and brought to councils.
Councillor Wilkinson.
And just that summary of informal meetings of councils is attached.
Thank you. So we put that to the vote. All those in favour? Right. So then there is a number of matters that we need to move into confidential. First one is the land acquisition program implementation. Councillor Nelson moves, Councillor Sinclair second. All those in favour? So that's carried. The next item is the operation management of the interim Geelong Resource Recovery Centre. Councillor Katos moves. Councillor Eddy second. Councillor Wilkinson second. All those in favour? And then the third matter is the Microsoft licensing service. A mover, Councillor Aitken to move, Councillor Cadwell to second. So we'll put that to the vote. So we're all in favour. So we will close the meeting to the public now. So thank you for your perseverance and wish you good evening.